Hi, version 2.0 of Honkai Stereo is nearly here, and with it we are getting Black Swan. Black Swan is our newest limited 5-star win unit following the path of nihility. However, her kit is a bit of a mess. In this video, I'll be explaining her kit in the simplest way possible. I'll be going through everything in her kit and explaining how to use each part so that everyone can have a better understanding on how to play her optimally. Her kit isn't that complex, but it has a lot of words, and without understanding it, it could lead to some serious damage loss. Before we start, I'll be giving away a supply pass / welcome rune / crystal card to my subscribers at 3k subs, so make sure you subscribe to enter. Black Swan's kit is actually super unique as we start with a basic attack. Unlike most other units in this game, she actually does something with a basic attack. Black Swan's basic attack, Percipience Silent Dawn, deals damage to a single target. However, it also has a chance of applying Arcana onto the enemy and also a chance of applying more Arcana per different DOT the enemy has. Essentially, it is a normal basic attack, but it also can apply Arcana. And additionally, if the enemy has Wind Shear, Bleed, Burn, or Shock, for each one of those there is a chance of another application of Arcana. For example, if Black Swan basically attacked an enemy with no debuffs or DOT, she has a chance of applying 1 stack of Arcana. But if Black Swan basically attacked an enemy with, let's say, Shock, because you're most likely playing her with Kafka, her basic attack now has a chance of applying 2 stacks of Arcana. One from just the basic attack, and one because the enemy has Shock. And in the same way, if the enemy has Shock, Wind Shear, and Burn like a Kafka, Black Swan as the team, the basic attack can now apply up to 4 stacks of Arcana. 1 from the base basic attack, and 3 from 3 different pre-existing DOTs. Each application of Arcana is calculated separately, so it's not just, for example, using the last team, 80% of applying 4 stacks, but rather 80% of applying 1 stack for 4 times. So what this all means is that in actual playing her, you want to be using her basic attacks on enemies that already have DOT applied on them. Black Swan's skill, Decadence False Twilight, deals damage to a single target and those adjacent. This skill also has a chance of applying Arcana to all enemies hit and also a chance of reducing the defense too. This is a very simple skill but also stupidly broken, because as I and many others have said before, defense reduction is one of the best ways to increase damage in general. However, it is extra special for DOT units as their DOT damage cannot be increased by crit, so they have to rely on other sources such as attack and, you guessed it, defense shred. This ultimately makes Black Swan function as a semi-support, a sub-DPS as some may call it, for other units like Kafka. This defense reduction also lasts for 3 turns, so the best way to use this skill is to skill first, then basic attack until the defense reduction runs out, which then you want to use skill again. This makes her actually quite a skill point efficient unit, which is a very good thing to hear, as your other units, most likely Kafka, does not have to pay as much attention to skill points. Now before we get to her ultimate, we have to explain her talent and most importantly, what is Arcana. Black Swan's talent, Loom of Fate's Caprice, states every time an enemy takes damage from DOT, there is also a chance of applying Arcana too. But the key point is that Arcana is a debuff that causes the enemy to take Wind DOT, just like Wind Shear, but not exactly the same. Each stack of Arcana increases the damage of this DOT up to 50 times, but will reset it when the damage is taken. In addition, when Arcana causes damage at the start of the enemy's turn, so no Kafka proccing it, if there are 3 or more stacks, deal damage to adjacent targets too with a chance of applying Arcana on them. And if there are 7 or more stacks, make the current DOT damage dealt ignore 20% defense on the target and the adjacent enemies. In short, Arcana is basically a special type of DOT exclusive to Black Swan. But the difference is that what it does and its damage can be increased based on the amount of Arcana the enemy has. So in a perfect world, we want to have 50 stacks of Arcana on the enemy at all times. But that's not too realistic, so at least applying 7 is okay. But what can help you reach 50 stacks, and what can help Kafka synergy with Black Swan is her ultimate. Black Swan's ultimate, Bliss of Otherworld's Embrace, deals damage to all enemies and inflicts them with Epiphany for 2 turns. Enemies with Epiphany takes more damage in their turn and also make all stacks of Arcana count as Wind Shear, Bleed, Burn, and Shock effects, which means that Kafka can use a skill or ultimate to proc them now. In addition, in the beginning of the next turn for the enemy, the stacks of Arcana will not reset for 1 time. So normally when it's the enemy turn, they take damage from the Arcana and then the stacks will be reset. However, this ult stops that and allows you to more easily reach that 50 stacks. It's a little confusing, but what it all means is basically before the enemy's turn, you want to make sure you ult them once to ensure that your Arcana stacks do not reset. The reset step can only happen once per Epiphany debuff, but can be regained once Epiphany is applied again. So in ideal world, you want to make sure you have 50 stacks of Arcana at all times. This means that you would like to ult once before every time the enemy gets a turn. Black Swan's technique from Facade to Verity has a 130% base chance of applying Arcana to each enemy, and if the application is successful, it will try to apply another stack of Arcana at half of the chance, so 75%, and it will keep doing this until it fails. So you can either get super unlucky and it applies no Arcana, or get super lucky and apply, let's say, 5 stacks of Arcana, which would be 150% for the first stack, 75% for the second stack, 37.5% for the third stack, 18.75% for the fourth stack, and 9.375% for the fifth stack. Or somewhere in between, as unless the enemies has extremely low effective resist, you're probably getting at most 1 or 2 stacks. This technique is super helpful, so make sure to use this whenever you can. So yeah, ultimately, you're just gonna be skill spamming, and occasionally not ulting off cooldown because a new horde of enemies are coming and your current wave of enemies is almost dead. Her kit has a lot of words, but it turns out to be quite simple in practice. But hey, that's just DOT characters.